Hello, good evening, you all, and welcome to the seventh session of the Friendly Beekeeper webinar series organized by Dilmah Conservation. In our previous webinar, we discussed how to handle bees and some of the bee pests and diseases. Today, we are going to further talk about these pests and diseases related to bees. And our resource person for the day is Dr. Anura Indrajit Sirisena, who is a senior lecturer of entomology and the head of the Department of Plant Sciences of the Faculty of Rajaratnam University of Sri Lanka. I welcome you on behalf of Dilmah Tea and Dilmah Conservation for today's session. Before we start today's session, there are a few announcements to make. The first one is, if you have missed any of our previous webinars, you can simply visit our Facebook page and find them in the video section. All the participants must register with a valid and working email address for the webinar series. Since there will be a valuable e-certificate issued for your participation in this webinar series, it is important to provide your correct information. Please note that you have to be part of at least 5 webinars to receive the certificate, and the certificate will be awarded at the end of the webinar series. If you have any questions related to today's session, you can simply put them in the Q&A tab, or you can just put them as comments in our Facebook live video. Please refrain from asking questions on the chat section of the webinar. During this webinar, there will be interesting poll questions, and you are all welcome to give them a try to make this session more interactive and interesting. So, Dr. Anura, shall we start today's session?
Yes, Tarindu. Yeah. Good evening to everyone. So our participants, right? So as Tarindu mentioned, we have discussed different aspects of beekeeping during last few webinars. So now we have come into kind of one stage because you have some good background knowledge on beekeeping and what are the basic aspects, right? And now simply you know how to establish a colony, how to inspect a colony, and all, right? And day-to-day management practices also somewhat familiar to you now. And when we having a kind of colony or apiary, one great problem that we will encounter, right, is different pests and diseases, right? You know, even human beings, right? So we are getting lots of diseases and pest attack, right? So similarly, honeybees are also getting many pest and diseases. If you're not able to manage these problems properly, so our colonies will be under stress, and then they will abscond. They will leave your place as a result, right? So none of the beekeepers are, will allow to go bees away from their apiary. You know, it's very hard for you to establish a colony. Therefore, if they are leaving your place because of a disease or a pest, which is quite unfortunate. Now today, so we will discuss what are the basic or what are the major pests and diseases we can find in honeybee colonies, and we'll see how to manage them. Right, simple methods to manage these pests and diseases. Now, as you can see here in this first slide, so we can categorize the pest, right, as major pest and minor pest. So major pests are the one that you can see commonly and which create, cause very severe problem on honeybee colonies. For example, wax moth, mites, ants, and small hive beetles may not present that much in Sri Lanka anyway. It is a kind of worldwide pest. And then hornets or the Dilmah, right? Dilmah wasp. And then minor pests, there are insects, the vertebrate and invertebrate. Invertebrate pests you can identify. Here in minor pests, lizards, termites, birds, right? So the bee eaters are there. And hawk moth, robber flies, spiders, geckos, right? Now, if you have colonies, definitely you may have experience, right? Lots of geckos are there just under the roof, right? And they normally capture bees and they feed them. Then other than this, there are some hemipteran bugs such as merit bugs and assassin bug, right? So they also attack honeybees, especially spiders, right? So they are general predators, right? So they feed anything, right? So any insect. Therefore, these invertebrates also can consider as a kind of invertebrate pest, right? So, or minor pest. So now we will see what are the major pests in detail. Now, so when we discuss about bee pest, right, the main pest actually is the wax moth, right? So wax moth. Why we call them wax moth? Wax moth mean now the larvae of this moth is feed on the wax, bees wax, right? Now this is a kind of lepidopteran insect, you know, moth mean lepidoptera, right? So it's a kind of a micro lepidoptera, very small adult. You can see here the adult in these images, right? So there are two species actually, greater wax moth and lesser wax moth. Galleria melonella and Acroria grisella. Among these, Galleria melonella is the serious pest, right? So basically, so they are a kind of nocturnal insects, right? So they active during the night time, and then they will come into the hive and they lay eggs inside the hive in the bee box, right? And then the larva is the damage causing stage, and this larva is feed on the wax of the bee comb, right? Now, not only the wax, now if the attack is very severe, they will feed on even pollen, honey, and brood and everything, right? So they are very much destructive. So maybe in the next slide, we can see they are, okay. Tarindu, there is something coming out here. Yeah. Tarindu? Yeah, I think you.
Yes, yes. So this is the first poll question for today's session. The question is, wax moth is one of the major pests in beekeeping. At what life stage is it most damaging to the bee colonies? There are 4 choices for this question. First one is adult, larvae, pupae, and fourth one is old. So let's see what are the answers from our audience. Yeah, so most of them have chose that the larvae is the most damaging life stage of this wax moth. So Dr. Anurag, what is the answer for this question?
Yeah, actually, as I mentioned, right, I just mentioned the damage causing stage is the larvae, right? The larvae of the wax moth actually make some damages on bees. Now here you can see the life cycle of that species, right? So the adult is a gray color, small moth, right? So it's a nocturnal insect, and they lay eggs, very small white color, right? Eggs in the cracks and crevices of the bottom board, right? So you know, bottom board is the lowermost part of the honey beehive, right? So there may be some cracks and crevices, and sometimes there may be some bee dust particles, right, accumulating over the time. And these are the places where they lay eggs, right? So during the night time, they enter into the colony and then they lay eggs, right? And after just after hatching, right, you can see some white color larvae with somewhat brown color head. They have some abdominal legs as well. And actually, I have to say this larvae is not attractive, right? It's somewhat sluggish-like, I mean, flat larvae, right? It's not like very round shapes, right? Handsome larvae, right? So this one somewhat ugly larvae, I would like to say. And then, so this is the damaging stage. So they will continuously feed on the wax, okay? And once they finish their feeding, so they will become their next stage called pupa, right? Pupate is also inside the tunnel that may produce. Actually, now in a honeycomb, right? In the bee comb, right? So they normally make galleries in between, in the mid wall, right? So now, you know, there are two surfaces in a comb, and there's a mid wall as well. Now they make some galleries in the mid wall, and they keep on feeding. And somewhere in the gallery, they will pupate. And in such case, you can see a cocoon like that, a white color cocoon. And inside they become the pupae, and then they will emerge as an adult after some time, right? So this is their life cycle. And this larvae actually produce lots of silken thread, right? Silken thread you can find. So during their life cycle. Now in next slides, most of the time, So you can see very clearly, yeah, next slide. Yeah, here you can see how their damages looks like. Now in the first image, you can see how they make these webs, right? So in the middle of the wax comb, they make some galleries, right? And you can see some silken threads are also there, right? And when this damage is very severe, you can see lots of silken threads are coming here, just like a mass of silken threads, right? And in the third image, you can see it's totally destroyed, right? So in this level, I don't think any bees will retain there, right? Because when they are damaging, right, as you see, as you can see in the first image, right? So when they are feeding the comb, so they may destroy the larvae, eggs, and any pollen and anything on their way, right? Therefore, the bees are thinking to leave that colony when this attack is there. Now, actually, when you inspect a colony, you cannot see these galleries are there. It's very difficult to find whether wax moth is there or not. But if you're tricky enough, what you have to do, you have to take a comb out and you can brush the bees away, right, from the comb, and then just check. You can keep the comb just away from the sun. I mean, you can keep towards the sun actually. Then if you look at the comb, you will see some galleries inside, right? Or you can use a kind of torch or something like that, right? Just to check whether the galleries are there, right? In the initial stage, it's very difficult to identify. Now, if you identified it, so you can control it easily. But in the second and third stages, definitely, right? So the colony is in unrecoverable stage, right? So the galleries and all, I mean, no, you cannot identify any eggs or larvae or pupa, even adults, they may have already left the colony, right? So therefore, the management of this wax moth problem at early stage is very, very important. Otherwise, the colonies will leave. Now, how can we do that? How can we control the wax moth? Now, one and most important thing is to maintain the cleanliness of the hive, right? So to that actually we can clean the bottom board very frequently, maybe at least once a week, right? So you can see this beekeeper is cleaning this bottom board. Normally this bottom board acts as a kind of reservoir for the debris, right? So all these dung, I mean, different foreign matters and dead insects and even mites and for some other foreign things will accumulate in this one. So therefore you have to clean it very frequently, maybe once a week, as I told you earlier. So for that, you can use the gate itself or a very sharp blade or a knife, right? Then by using that, you can scrape them out. Right? You can scrape them out because the eggs can be in different places, especially in the edges, right? And in between the timber particles, right? So there are some crevices and cracks. So these places are very good for their to lay their eggs, right? But I would rather recommend if you can put some boiling water. I mean, if you can wash it, not boiling, maybe hot water. If you can wash this bottom board time to time, it's quite helpful for the bees to maintain their cleanliness inside the hive. Now, wax moth normally attract the colony because of the smell coming up from the comb, right? Therefore, if the wax pieces are there, if they accumulate in the floor board or bottom board, then they will attract, right? So therefore, so we can use some traps also, right? By using different combs, we can use some traps even to attract wax moth. And another thing is, so we can use so if we can, yeah, here, please wait a moment. So we can use the gate. Yeah, now, you know, when you keep the gate, right, only the worker bees can go through. And during nighttime, you can lock the gate. Right? If you keep the gate upside down, you can close the gate. Then the wax moth cannot come in during the night time. So therefore, but the thing is, if you forget to open that gate in the morning, so what will happen? Then the bees may not able to come out. So therefore, there is a problem. So my suggestion is, so my advice is, keep the gate and limit the holes that bees can go. I mean, when they go here and there, right? So we can keep only one hole open, right? No, rather than opening all the holes, because by doing that, you can limit the movement of the wax moth to the hive, right? So in that way, you can protect some, or otherwise in other countries, you can expect some pheromone traps, right? Or even you can make a kind of trap by using some old wax comb, right? And if you keep it somewhere in different places in your apiary, and if there are some mechanism to trap the wax moth, maybe some water just at the bottom, or maybe kerosene, right? Something like that. Then you can attract the wax moth, then they can trap them. Likewise, you can control this problem. Remember that this is the most serious pest problem in honeybees in Sri Lanka. Right. The next important pest is a kind of mites, right? So mites and insects are different, right? You know that the mites are just like spiders; they have 8 legs, but insects have only 6 legs. Now these mites are very tiny, right? So you can see in this first image, some mites are stick on their abdomen, brown color, red color things, right? Or sometimes they may stick on their thorax even, right? And you may very frequently observe, right? There are some mites, small creatures on the thorax of honeybees. They are not actually varroa mite, right? So there may be some flower mites. You know, in flowers there are some different mite species. So when the bees are land on the flowers to get nectar pollen, right? So they jump into the honeybee's body, then they will use as a carrier, right? So if they want to go somewhere else, then they jump onto a honeybee. Then in the next plant they will dislodge, right? So likewise they use as a curry. But in case of varroa destructor, it's a very dangerous pest species, right? They purposefully stick on the worker bees, and then they will travel to honeybee hive, right? Because their intention is something else. Now this varroa destructor is the most dangerous pest elsewhere in the world, right? Because the most of the colonies have destroyed by this mite, especially Apis mellifera in European honeybees, right? So they are they consider as this is a serious pest, right? Now, luckily, this pest actually derived or originated from our honey, Asian honeybee, Apis cerana. Therefore, our honeybees, the Sri Lankan honeybee or Asian honeybee, Apis cerana, is somewhat tolerant to this varroa destructor. Therefore, we do not consider this as a serious pest. But in other countries, if you are going to do beekeeping somewhere else, maybe one day, then you will realize that how important this species and how they panic, right, on this species. So we'll see how actually this varroa might come into the hive. So you can see the queen is laying eggs in the first image. The queen is laying eggs here, and after 3 days the egg is hatched and the larva is there. And now maybe a kind of nurse bee, right? So this nurse bee, you can see a varroa mite in her body. Maybe it came from a foraging bee, right? And while she is feeding this young, right? So this varroa mite is very tricky, right? Now the mite will be slowly scroll down to the hive, to the cell, right? And it may stick on the developing larvae and the pupa, right? And after some time, the nurse bees, they will close the cell when they are ready to pupate. And during that time, so the mite will lay eggs, right? From the first eggs, most of the time they produce some males, and after that they produce some female. Therefore, the mite species within the cell can reproduce themselves, right? So after some time, you can see lots of mites are there, right? And when this bee now emerging as an adult, you can see lots of mites are stick on her body, right? And now this bee will carry this or spread this varroa mite to other bees as well. Now, when the behavior is totally different in this species, right? And so when they are moving here and there, they can spread this mite all over the colony, right? And even the foraging, they may be come into contact with other bees also from other hives, and from that way they can spread this one to other hives also, right? It's very dangerous therefore. And also they can spread some viruses, right? So this is different stages of this mite species. Very young, we saw protonym, deutonym, and likewise, right? So you can see adult and female here. So female adult and female male adult, right? So you can see the females are always bigger than the males, right? So the most dangerous thing is, rather than the direct feeding, right, they spread some viruses. In between colonies. So it's very dangerous, right? Now we should know how we can control this one, right? And the damage, if we talk about the damage, so they will feed on the blood, right? Actually, these mites are nothing but you may have seen some mites species on your dogs or cats, right? So they also have this different mites and ticks and mites, right? So they are simply draw blood, right, from the host. So this one also Varroa feed on the blood of this sometimes the adult or the larvae or the pupae, right? And then as a result of that, these stages become very weak, right? And the life cycle of the bees will reduce, their behavior will change, right? And sometime the bee will be killed, right, because of this one. And I told you they can carry viruses also. They act as a kind of virus vector among the colonies, right, and among the members. So how to control this one? Now, as I told you earlier as well, so the bottom board serve as a kind of very important surface, right? So all the foraging bees will first land on the bottom board, right? And if there are some mice, right, quickly these might maybe go into the bottom board, right? So therefore, you can expect some mites are there all the time. So time to time, what you can do is you can take it out and clean, right? And on just upon the bottom board, you can keep a cardboard which has apply some sticky substance, maybe kind of glue, right? But not having some very strong aroma in it, right? You can apply some gum or some glue like things and keep on top of the bottom board. Then what will happen? This mites time to time they will fell on that one and they will stick on it, right? So it's a good way. And also, if you don't have such thing, you have to clean the bottom board all the time. So by that way you can control it. And that boiled water treatment that I told you earlier is also help here. Now, because since they are very tiny, they will hide maybe inside the cracks and crevices again. So therefore, although you brush or you scrape it out, the mites may still there, right? Therefore, it is better if you can wash them with the maybe you can apply some surfactant even a little bit, right? And then you can clean it, right? So then if there are mite, they will go away. Now you will see now in some time if you inspect a colony, the bees are coming from the environment or foraging bees, right after they landed on the gate on the gate, they will rub their legs here and there, right? So they rub their legs and they try to scrape out something, right? They groom, right? Actually, our honeybee Apis cerana is very good at it, right? So if there are any mite, they can groom them out, right? So they have that ability. But if it's mellifera, they don't have that much that ability. Therefore, so our honeybee is quite safe, right? When you think about the varroa mite, so our bee is quite safe. But if the population is increased, then the economic level, then the damage can be severe, right? Remember, if you observe any mites, you have to make arrangement to control them. Okay. Now, if you go for some minor pests, ants are, although it is minor, it can be dangerous sometimes, right? You can see what happened in this hive. So ants, all sort of ants, maybe black ants, red ants, ecopilus, red ants. And I can remember some time back from Mariupol area, there was a kind of ant species, and they could damage a complete hive within 2 or 3 days, right? So when they start to invade, within 2 or 3 days, they feed everything. Nothing will remain, right? So there may be some flesh-eating ants also, right? So therefore, if you see some ants hang around, maybe only 1 or 2 ants normally there in even any colony, right? It's not a thing to worry, right? But if they are coming in a large number, definitely we have to take some measures, right? So how actually we can protect our colonies from ants? Why they are coming actually? Because there are some sugary things inside, right? That's why ants are coming. But some ants, they will feed on the brood also. They carry some eggs and larvae, right? If the colony is weak, right, the colony cannot fight with the ant, right? Okay, so therefore the ants will win. So okay, now in this one you can see how we can protect our colonies from ants. Now in your home garden, you can have a small pond like that, right? And you can keep some water there. So then the ants may not able to come. Or in this stand, you can apply some repellent, maybe burning oil or grease or something like that. But remember that you should not over apply these things, right? I have seen many times now people have applied different things on this stand just to repel ant, but at the end the bees also leave from this, because they are very sensitive, right? They are very sensitive for odors, right? So if you apply anything bad in large amount, so it may harmful for the bees as well. Therefore, you can apply a little bit of grease in the lower or the base area of the stem. Now, the other problem that can come, your dengue or the MOH will come and ask you to remove this water, because dengue mosquito can develop in this pond. Therefore, so what you can do, you can put some salt or a little bit of oil or kerosene you can apply into this water. Then there are no any mosquito development. So it's okay then, right? So if you are creative enough, you will develop this pond in different way, right? So it's up to you to decide. Anyway, but our attention is we have to think about avoiding ants. And this is another pest that we can find mainly in other countries, but not that much common here. A small hive beetle. This is a coleopteran insect, as you can see here, right? So you can see the larva and this larva, and there's a good comparison here. The wax moth larva and a small hive beetle larva, right? So in the wax moth larva, you can't find any spines on the body, but here you can see some spines are there, right? And here in the wax moth, they have some abdominal legs, what we call prolegs, but you cannot find prolegs here in the abdomen of the small hive beetle larvae, right? And they don't produce even web. Now, if you can remember, wax moth larvae produce large number of, lots of webs, right? Silicon web. Now, by looking that, you can easily compare and contrast these two species, right? And here you can see the life cycle, right? So they lay eggs inside the hive, right? The eggs are maybe 2/3 of the size of the bee egg, and then the pupation is in the soil, you can see, and beetle fly into the soil again, right? And the damage caused by both adult and larvae. So we can see the next slide about the damage. Yeah, damage. The larvae and adult beetle feed on bee eggs, right? And the brood. And there it seems to be they don't like to feed on any wax, right? So they like to feed on the eggs and brood and honey and pollen. They don't feed on wax, right? So you can see some beetle, large number of beetles are here, right? See, and so anyway, at the end they destroy the colony, right? And colony absconding is the result. So they don't like to stay here. And when they lay a large number of eggs, you can see how many larvae are coming out in their that species, and it's very odd. And bees, they don't like to have this thing, right? Because they are very clean insects, right? Bees are very clean. So when they have this sort of eggs and materials, they will definitely leave your place, right? And if you find these things, what we can do is we can maintain the cleanliness again. You can remove the excess combs, right? If there are some excess comb, there's a high chance for them to attack. Actually, I couldn't tell you now, even in the previous case, wax moth also attack if there are some excess combs. What are the excess combs? Excess combing. Now, in the middle of the hive, there are some combs, right? So these combs always have a brood. And then the adult bees are normally cover this comb. Either side of the comb is covered by bees, right? And maybe in the edge of the hive, there are maybe some empty hive, empty comb, right? There are no any brood or honey or anything, right? Now, normally the wax moth will first attack for that kind of exposed or open or empty comb, right? Therefore, if you see any empty or useless comb, you have to remove it rather than keep it in there, right? Because if you keep them there, you're inviting for troubles, right? So you can keep them out. So when the bees always cover the comb, there are no chance to wax moths to attack, right? And so in that way, now for any other insect attack also, right? Sometimes cockroaches also can invade honeybee colonies, right? Maybe you have seen. So these things will happen if you are not attending your colony time to time. Yeah, you have to maintain the hygiene around the apiary, right? Keep the bottom board free of debris and use quality hives, remove excess combs. And if the weak colonies are there, maybe 2 or 3 weak colonies, you can merge them together and make a healthy colony, right? Sometime during the dearth period, the colonies become very lethargic and they become very weak, right? So in such case, we can unite these two colonies and make a single one, right? So in such case, there are specific ways that we can merge colonies. Then the colony becomes strong. So it's the strong colony normally not attacked by any pest. Right. Now, if you wish to go to another pest, yeah. So this is Hornet or the Dilmah, right? Dilmah wasps. I think everyone are familiar about the Dilmah. It's a very big one. Now, right. So this is a serious pest of honeybee colonies, right? Sometimes you may have seen they come and they are waiting in the somewhere around the gates to grasp some honeybees, right? And they will feed on them, right? And also they will bring these bees to their hives to feed their young, right? So they feed on this the muscle meat, right? So they are actually insectivorous insect, right? So it's a very serious place. So now, if there are any paper wasps colony nearby your apiary, you have to remove them. Okay, that's another question. Seems to be Sarindu.
Yes, this is the second poll question for today's session. The question is, can honeybees kill the hornet? So there is yes or no. So let's see what are the answers from the audience. So most of the audience thinks that the honeybees can kill these hornets. So Dr. Anurag, what is the correct answer for this question?
Yes, I'm glad to see most of you are correct actually. Now you can see the incidence here, and what we call this phenomena we used to say hot defense, hot defensive bee ball, right? Now, okay, before coming to that one, so you can see Dembara, right? Dembara's nest or the paper was nest, right? I think everyone familiar with this. So if you look, if you have any Dembara was like this here, very close to your apiary, definitely we have to take some measures. You have to remove this nest from this place. Otherwise, they will end up with feeding all the bees, right? Because they love to feed on bees, because bees are not that much defensive. They are weak, right? If they are weak, now, but if they are strong, right? If they are strong, so this condition you can see now. You can see here the hot defense bee ball. Now, what happened here? They normally the large number of bees will come and cover the Dembara, right? The wasps, and then they keep rolling with the bees, right? Sorry, with the wasp, they will keep rolling here and there, right? Now, imagine in a situation like that, maybe 40 or 50 people coming to you, and you are covered by these people, and they roll you here and there. Then what will happen? You are in the center. What will happen? Now you will get cooked at the end, so because the temperature inside will increase, right? So if large number of people jump into one person and keep rolling on that one, so right in the center, normally the temperature will increase. Now here the similar thing can happen, right? Large number of bees will come and completely cover the bee, sorry, the hornet, and then they move here and there just like a hot ball. You know, in the center the temperature can increase up to 46 degrees Celsius, right? Then at the end the Dilmah will die, right? So Dilmah bee will die at the end. So these things can happen if the colony is very strong, right? So they can fight still, right? They can fight with the Dilmah, but just to help, yeah, good. Okay, there are some questions in chat here we can discuss at the end. Anyway, now how we can remove this nest, I mean Dilmah nest. Now there are different ways. I mean, normally people set fire into that one. It is not good, right? You know, they are also kind of insect that they have some right to stay in the environment. It's a part of environment. So you can slowly repel that one by people say if you throw a kind of lime, right, or kind of citrus fruit into that nest, by the time they will leave that place or something like that, right? So or some people apply pyrethroid and kill them, and there are some other methods to remove this. So anyway, one way or the other, you have to remove this net if it is very close to your yes. Yeah, this is not that much common. You will see this incidence if it is the colony is very strong, right? The strongest bees or colony only can do that. Otherwise, they are most of the time they will fail. Okay, that is the story about Hornet. Then now we discuss about some major and minor pests, right? So I actually did not discuss all the pests, right? So the lizard and geckos and all. But we will move into another section here, the diseases, the bee diseases, right? Now, under diseases, very recently in Sri Lanka, there was a species, a disease was spreading called, and we believe that it is sackbrood virus disease, right? Sackbrood virus disease. So this is a viral disease like COVID-19. You can, you have now experience, right? How viral diseases are, right? So the colony can destroy by this viral disease, right? And normally, you can find the affected brood, right? So the cells are not, closed, they are open, and the larvae may dead, pointing their head towards the outside, right? You can see some spine like their head to outside, and then this is the major character. And when you look at the larvae, right, they all dead. And when you try to pull them out, when you try to get it out, you will see lots of fluid filled inside the body, and it's just like looks like a sac, right? When you try to keep it out, just like a sac. That's why we call sac brood, right? Sac brood disease. Now they mainly infest on the larval stage, right? So then the larvae may not become pupa, they will die prematurely. So many areas of the country, sometime back and even these days, right, having this disease. So it's a serious pet. It's a serious disease in Sri Lanka, right? So we'll see how we can actually control or the damage in the, okay. So you can see here, okay, now I told you they looks like a sac. You can see in this image, they just like a sac. Now the color of the larvae also change from white color to early become brown, and then it become dark brown, then at the end they become dark color or black color, and then they will die at the end, right? So this color change is very significant, you can see. And here in the, you can see this hexagonal cells. So all these larvae has dead, right? So these are dead larvae. Okay, now because of the, now you can see they have not grown enough and not even covered by the wax cap, right? So this is the condition, right? Okay, now we'll see how we can control this one. Now the spread, now you know how COVID-19 is spreading, right? So it can spread by human being, right, with their utensils. Similarly here, the beekeepers may help to spread this disease. Now if you use the same utensil that you use to handle the infested colony, and if you use the same in the other one, then the virus can easily transfer to the other one, right? So in that way, therefore you have to clean the devices before you handle different colonies. And also, if the colony is infested more than 5%, definitely you have to introduce a new queen, right? The existing queen you have to remove, and then you have to introduce a new queen. And also my advice is you have to remove all the all the comb, right? Comb, and destroy them. You can burn them, or you can put you can bury them on the soil, right? But not the bees, right? So you can keep the bees, but the comb you can wax comb you can destroy, because otherwise it will spread for other colonies as well, so which is not good. And also infested workers, right? So they when they are feeding some other youngs, again they can contaminate and they can spread the virus, right? And since for the COVID-19 there are no particular drugs, right? Now only thing is we have to eat and drink water, and right, we have to we have to develop our immune system, right? So similarly, what we can do for an infested colony, we can give a good sugar syrup, right? And we can give some pollen substrate, right? And so there are some drugs available, maybe antibiotics we can, but it is not recommended, right? But in severe cases we can give that these things also, right? But if you give some sugar syrup, and if you give very good rest for the bees, and then they will develop the immunity, and they can withstand again the viral disease, right? Now most of the time the colony will destroy, and but if you are a good beekeeper, you should be able to manage it by using the method that I explained here, right? Okay, now what are the other type of disease? Now American foulwood disease also common in among honeybees, not that much in our part of the world. Anyway, you should, it's better if you are heard about this topic as well. So this is a bacterial disease, right? So previous one is a viral disease, right? So this is a bacterial one, Bacillus larvae. So you can see only the brood, the larvae and the pupae is infested. it's not the adult, right? Get this one. So you can see once they did the brown color and a black color and awful odor that you will get, any bacterial infections, right? It's a common character, right? They have some very awful odor and so odor like, right? Thing you can expect. So it will affect on the mainly on the brood. And there's another fall brood, what you call European fall brood, right? So it's also caused by bacteria. It's a non-spore forming bacteria. The previous one is spore forming bacteria. And this one, larvae die when they are 4 to 5 years old on the or in the coiled stage. Coiled stage mean at the beginning, just after hatch, right? And then the decayed larvae release sour odor. So this one also emitting some awful odor, right? Sour odor. And the color changes from shiny white to pale yellow to brown. So you can see in this way. So inside this is how they did inside the cell, right? Fall brood disease. And in this, actually, in the previous one, American fall disease, now when we try to remove this bacterial infected larvae, right, by using a toothpick or any other thing, right, you will see the larvae will stick into the toothpick and it will stretch like a string, right? It may not come quickly, but you will see it will stretch like this, just like a string for about 2.5 centimeters, right? It's a kind of characteristic feature of that one. And here you can see another one. This is a fungal disease, right? So what you call chalk brood disease. So as the name implies that, so once the diseases occur, the bee brood become just like a chalk, right? You know, the simple chalk, right? So these are the mummified larvae, right? And they're just like a chalk because the white color mycelium will grow on their body, right? And also you will see, you will hear some rattling sound, right? You know, when you shake it, you will have some rattling sound in the chalk brood disease. And maybe in the ground, you can see some dead larvae-like thing on the ground, right? Okay. Now, these are the major diseases. Okay, now here is actually you can see a good comparison. So the first one, European fall brood disease, right? The odor is so or none, right? In American fall brood, you can see the sulfurous odor, they say, right? And in American fall brood disease, you can see, so that symptom that I told you. So by using a toothpick, when you try to take it out, it will stretch like this, right? Just like a string, a thread like this. And a sac brood disease, right? So we talk about that. This is the viral disease, right? So the larvae become a sac-like thing. When we try to take it out, it's come like a sac. And inside the body, totally a kind of fluid will retain there, just like a sac, right? And here chalk brood, this is very easy to identify. That it's become a white or black color like thing, right? Mainly white color, and there may be some rattling sound on that one. So this is the chalk brood disease. So far we discuss about different pests, right? Actually, our main intention today was to discuss about different pest species, right? And different diseases. Okay. Okay, there are some pests and there are some diseases. Right, I think yeah, Tarindu, now I think we have come into end. So if there are any questions, we can answer now, right?
Yes, Dr. There are a few questions for today's session, and Narmada is asking if mites are seen on honeybees reaching the hive. Does that confirm that they are varroa and not flower mites?
And can you repeat the questions?
Yeah. If mites are seen on honeybees reaching the hive, does that confirm that they are varroa and not flower mites?
Yeah, by looking the external morphology, we can actually decide whether it is a flower mite or varroa mite, right? And yeah, varroa mite, you will see purposefully they are actually stick into their abdomen, and they and their body color, you can see reddish color, right? Yeah, in flower mites it may be in different size, right? And they don't colonize that much on the, and mainly they will see in the thorax like this, right? And yes, varroa mites somewhat firmly stick into their body, right? Even in the abdomen. Actually, maybe you can use a kind of hand lens, and by using that you can see the different because the flower mite, right, the mouth parts also different. Now the flower mites normally adapted to take some sap from the plant, right? But in contrast to that, this is a blood feeding kind of, you know, they are in the mouth part, we call the hypostome, the special part of their mouth part. So they use it to grafts into their host, right? So now it's very once the hypostome is inserted into the honeybee, it's not easily take out, right, by using a tweezer or something like that. So by doing different things, actually we can separate them out, right? Maybe you have to use a kind of hand lens, and maybe the body color, right? Yes. Any more questions?
There is another question that it's about wax moth. So Tusita is asking when the wax moth attack happened, bees cut the comb and try to get rid of them.
Bees themselves cut to remove them. Yeah, that sort of behavior, yeah, we can expect, although we are not that much familiar in that one. Rather, actually, what they do is, if the wax moth is start to attack, their first intention is to leave that colony. I mean, if it is strong colony, they will try to defend. Yeah, they may try to defend, right? And for a well-developed colony, if there are 1 or 2 wax moths is there, it's not actually a problem, right? Because they can withstand that. So as you said, yeah, there may be some defensive mechanism like that. But most of the time, when the wax moths are coming and colonize there, right, the weaker colonies tend to abscond rather than dealing with them, right? Because bees are free to go, right? So they can go anywhere they want. But if they are in a hive with the gate, only they will try to stay there for some. Otherwise, if it's a natural colony or a clay pot or something like, definitely they will leave, right? So that's why we say if you have to inspect the colony time to time, and if there are any sign of wax moth, we have to take measures, right? And during that time, maybe you can keep the gate even, especially during the day period, right? So when the wax moth are occurring, so they will, anytime they will try to leave. And by giving some sugar syrup and things, you can encourage bees to stay in your place, right? So these are the things that we have to think about during the period, right? Aheni kale, we say in Sinhala. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is another question that some of our participants is asking that for the saproot and other virus diseases, what do you think about recommending Ayurvedic medicines like kasaya for saproot virus?
Yes, that may helpful. I mean, no, I mean, there are no research have done on these aspects, right? Yeah, even we know for COVID-19, we are using different our Ayurvedic medicines, right? And it seems to be the immunity can build up by doing that and this, right? So similar thing can expect from honeybees as well, right? Maybe some people have tried out it, but I don't have experience like that. So what we say is, we try to develop their immunity by giving sugar syrup and some pollen substitutes or something like that. But if someone is interested, yeah, you can go ahead and do some trials on that, right? Some kasaya type thing we can give them, right? And we'll check, right? So, but I don't think in our condition anyone have tried out this. Yeah, it may work. I don't say no, right? The main thing is actually we have to maintain the cleanliness of the colony, and the health, we have to maintain the strength of the colony. So to do that, actually all what we can do, time to time we can clean the colony, and time to time we can give some supplementary feeding. And if there are some weaker colonies, right, we can make them strong by uniting them, right? So if you know what is going on inside, right, so when the colonies become weak, you can help them, you can push them, right? So in that way we can protect them, you know, especially during the rainy season. It's very difficult for them to go out, and they are starving actually, right? So during that time the colony become very weak, because even this virus, right, these viral diseases are thrive only on the stressed bees, right? Now if the bees are under stress condition, the virus will work, right? But if the bees are happily, I mean, if they are well nourished, right? Although the virus is there, they can still withstand, no problem, right? So therefore, we have to think about that as well.
Yeah, Dr. Anurag, finally, there is another request for about it. It is about the hot ball bee. Senu is asking, is there any bad effect for the bees when they make a defensive hot bee ball?
Any bad effect on bees?
Bad effect on bees, yeah.
Yeah. Good question. Actually, if you are interested, you can read this matter even in the literature. You can find even the different websites you can search, right? So people have done lots of research, lots of studies on this, right? You know that by doing that, the temperature will increase in the bee ball, right? And you know, lethal thermal limit for bees also 50 degrees, right? And the lethal thermal limit for Deborah is 45 to 46. Now it is now inside the bee ball, the temperature will increase only 45 to 46 degrees, maximum for the 46. The research papers like that, right? 46 degrees. And if it is exceed than that, if it is go up to 50, the bees also will die. Now their thermal limit is somewhat like this, right? So it is somewhat, I mean, 4 degrees above than the limit of the Deborah bee, right? Therefore, they know, I mean, their brains are trained and they make some signals. They are communicating each other. They don't increase the temperature beyond the 46, right? Slightly enough to kill that one, and not for the bees. But maybe accidentally the bees will also affect it, right? So very good question, and you can go ahead and read on this matter, right? So there are many research have been done on this area.
Those are the questions for today's session, and we have come to the end of today's session. And before we wind up, there are a few announcements to make. Please be sure to register with your correct email address to receive the feedback form. And all participants who have registered will receive the feedback form one day after the webinar session. Please be sure to fill and submit. Yeah.
Tarindu, I can see one question. If you don't mind, if you have time, I can spend 1 minute, right? Someone is asking whether I can explain about colony collapse disorder. I just saw that one. Now, I will spend 1 minute only on that, right? Colony collapse disorder is actually a kind of syndrome that find all over the world these days, right? The colony collapse disorder, I mean, lots of countries, especially in the European countries, the colonies are destroying, right? Destroying, the number of bees are reducing. Now these beekeepers are very alarming on that. I mean, they are very worried about this thing, and lots of scientists, right? Different groups of researchers get together and doing conducting research, and they found out several reasons for the colony collapse disorder, and they end up with the one reason is the insecticide, especially neonicotinoid type pesticide is one reason, and the other one is the diseases, viral diseases, right? Because of the viral diseases, this colony is destroyed, and the global warming, right? And they are thinking the genetic factors also in on matter on this aspect, right? So mainly they conclude actually the insecticide and viral diseases are responsible for this colony collapse disorder. Now the breeders, especially colony breeders, they are spreading this weaker or bad strains among the beekeepers. Therefore, this has been widespreadly occur in European countries. Luckily, we don't have colony collapse disorder so far here in Sri Lanka, but we have that sackbrood disease, right? So we have to work on that before go along to find a good solution. Over to you, Tarindu. Sorry about disturbing.
No, Dr. It's okay. So I would like to thank you, Dr. Anura, on behalf of Dilmah Tea and Dilmah Conservation for your valuable time and sharing some amazing information with us today. And thank you to all the participants for joining us today. Hopefully, the next webinar for the Friendly Beekeeper webinar series, which will be about managing a bee exodus, that's mean absconding and swarming, will be held on 21st of December. And if your questions were not answered today, don't worry, all your questions for today's webinar will be answered through an email. Okay, with that, it's time to conclude our webinar for the day. Have a good day and be safe.